various universities and various institutions for this interesting talk on creating mentally resilient campus, a holistic approach to student mental wellness. In fact, this is an initiative under this AIU and the Solh Wellness for promoting mental health awareness. This is a program for the university stakeholders, teachers, students, educational administrators. So I welcome each one of you to this interesting talk of today's webinar. Friends, to set the stage, just let me give a structured reference about the education and its definition. That education is always believed to promote the holistic development of the personality of the students. Sariram Adyam Khaludharma Sadhano. This is a version from the Saririk Upanishad, which is a subset of the broad Upanishad out of the 32 set of Upanishad. The meaning is Sarir Pehle, Baki Sadhana, Baki Sab Dharm Baad mein. In fact, in this context, let me also remind each one of the members, those who have joined today, that so friends, the recently implemented document NEP 2020 has given a very structured reference about the holistic development of the students. Indian knowledge system, how it was working in the ancient past, the heydays where the entire system of education was revolving around promoting the holistic development among the students. So therefore, our Vedic scriptures, all the ancient literature, Upanishads, everywhere there is a reference that education is for holistic development. So therefore, this version I have referred for you. This is Sariram Adhyam and Khaludharma Sadhana. So physical, mental, and emotional development of students are very important. And the interesting fact is that right after the independence, we have constituted so many committees and commissions, including the first Education Commission, 1948 Radhakrishnan Commission, then Dr. D.S. Kothari Commission, Secondary Education Commission, Mudaliar Commission, so on and so forth. All the commissions and committees, they have given structured reference and regarding the holistic development of the students. But unfortunately, this is as a gray area has never got attention. If it has got a little bit of attention, then that is sporadic attention or very scant attention. For the first time, this new education policy, which is envisioned to be a forward-looking, student-centric and innovative document, which is also expected to bring a revolution in the field of education. In fact, it is serious about bringing the holistic development of the students. So in this regard, my point here is that I'm also reminiscent of the educational philosophy of J.D. Krishnamurti, who says that each one of us has two worlds, inner world and the outer world. The present system of education is providing opportunities to address somehow the issues, the complexities involved with our outer world. But the inner world is miserably suffering. There is enough mental unrest, fatigue, tension, complexes, so many issues that is hampering somewhere the nurturing of the full potential of the students. Having said so, the inner world, the issues of the inner world needs to be addressed. Today, we have invited one of the best person in yogic activities and mental health expert, Mr. Kapil Gupta. So I am very much interested that we should not rather spend time on speaking much. Before I request Mr. Kapil Gupta to deliver his talk, I request Madam Dr. Mital, who is a very familiar face in the higher education landscape in our country. Dr. Mital has a long stint of working with the University Grants Commission in very senior position, and she has been a vice chancellor of a women's university in Haryana, Bhagat Mahila Phul Singh Vishwavidyalaya. And Madam Dr. Mittal for last 5 years has taken so many initiatives to help the university sector in addressing various issues. And today, one of the issues is addressing the mental health of the students of the universities, which are really suffering. And the last several years, we have witnessed lots of suicides and many things. Probably that is the resultant factor, and that has arisen out of the mental stress and fatigues, and because we are not having good mental state of affairs. So I request Madam Dr. Mittal to kindly share her introductory remarks, following which I will be shifting and requesting today's speaker, Mr. Gupta, to deliver his talk. Over to Madam Dr. Mittal, please.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pani, and thanks to Kapilji from Solh Wellness for organizing this program for us. I'm very happy that there are many students who have joined here, but also there are many vice chancellors who are there. I'm able to see Dr. Rakesh Mudgal, who is here joining the program. Thanks for joining. And there are many more vice chancellors. Some have not switched on their cameras, and but there are many students, and I suppose they will be most benefited from this particular webinar. As you all know, that Association of Indian Universities, which is the largest university network in the world and will be completing 100 years this year, we have been organizing programs for the students, teachers, vice chancellors from time to time to address whatever are the contemporary issues, whether it relates to academics, research, governance. But the topic which we have chosen today is something which is very important, but often overlooked. People overlook mental health, and it is felt, I mean, they are also especially the students, they are also very skeptical about this. Like, they don't want to discuss their mental problems. People feel that how can I discuss my mental problems with others? First of all is acceptance that I have a mental problem, and second is to discuss those mental problems and get a remedy. So therefore we thought that we should be holding these type of webinars where the students can be helped not only through a counselor. Counseling is one type of thing which they'll be talking about, but also through self-help. So Soul Wellness has some sort of apps which help you to identify. Sometimes we don't even know whether we are suffering. For example, are we suffering from anxiety or stress? Whether I'm stressed or not, I sometimes I don't come to know. So there are apps with the Soul which tell you that whether you are having some anxiety disorders, whether you are having some panic disorders, whether you have a depressive can be more, I mean, major depression or minor depression. Are you stressed both in terms of acute stress, chronic stress? Do you have bipolar disorder? Do you have eating disorder? This is very common in women who want to be extra thin always. Do you have attention deficit disorder? Do you have obsessive compulsive disorder? Do you have some post-traumatic stress disorder? Sometimes something happens, some episode happens in the university or some accident happens. So there are some post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a lot of means importance is also required in the field of substance abuse, because I said that is now increasing in our university, the substance abuse. So how to take care of that, how to take care of sleep disorders, how to take care of even adjustment disorders. So there are so many disorders which are prevailing in the system, but many times we don't come to know. And when we don't come to know, we are not able to cure it. And the university sometimes, like Dr. Pani was saying, that we do face a problem in which the students commit suicide, which is very unfortunate. But all this can be prevented if the leadership takes some preventive measures to keep on checking the mental health of the students and addressing the issues which are arising out of the mental health. Therefore, we thought that a topic which is less discussed should be discussed today, and we should be helping our students in taking care of all these issues in an anonymous manner, so that if you feel bad that okay, people will be judging me, they will be thinking what has happened to this person, so all those issues will not be there. So it will be a very straightforward help to all the students, first to identify and then to address the issue. So I am grateful to Soul as well as Kapil Gupta ji. He's sitting in Canada right now, and from there at 5:30 in the morning he's talking to all of you. So thanks, Kapilji, for this. And now we'll be moving over to Kapilji. And if there are any questions during the course of discussions, Kapilji would be ready to answer that. You can be putting the questions on the chat bot or that message box, or you can be putting the, I mean, you can raise your hands and you can straight away ask the question. So we'll be calling the people one by one, whosoever raises the hand. So thank you, and over to Dr. Pani.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for some nice introduction and setting the stage of today's talk. And dear colleagues, may I request you to kindly make your video switch on so that we can have a screenshot. And after that, I will be introducing our guest speaker today. Yes, I appreciate all of you for making your video on. so we can move on. Thank you so much. We have Professor Satyanand Panda, an expert in clinical psychology from Sikkim University, Gangtok, and he has a person of a special interest in this area and delivers many talks also. And we have many senior vice chancellors. We are grateful indeed for your presence, sir, august presence rather. And friends, thank you very much. Now let me give a little bit introduction about our guest speaker, Mr. Kapil Gupta. Though he has got many credits to his feeder, I can just briefly introduce that a renowned entrepreneur and mental health advocate, Mr. Gupta, has been an avid speaker and a frequent participant on TV channels on the talks for mental health and other issues. The purpose of his initiative is to provide the opportunity to everybody to understand the issues related to mental health, unrest, depression that has caused really a greater harm to the society. So, to address these issues, Mr. Kapil Gupta is committed. He has a dedicated team. His colleague, Mr. Sarath, has also joined us. And with this, I request Mr. Kapil Gupta to please start your talk. And we will be having 10-15 minutes around after the end of your talk. So, if any queries or clarifications need to be asked by the participants, then you will be, I think, spare some time to interact with them. Thank you very much. Over to Mr. Kapil Gupta, please.
So thank you so much for that introduction, Dr. Pani, and thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. Mental health is fast becoming one of those things that we all need to care about the most. Perfect. So let me start my talk. And first of all, I want to thank everybody from various universities, the professors, the vice chancellors, the other faculty members, the student, and everyone who has come to this event, who has come to this webinar. Thank you so much for being a participant here. This talk is really about creating mentally resilient campuses. And I don't just mean talking about creating mentally resilient students or mentally resilient faculty or mentally resilient individuals. I'm really talking about how do you incorporate the functionality or how do you incorporate the methodology of having mentally resilient campuses so that everybody around gets taken care of. Most of the times today, what we are seeing is universities would implement some sort of a mental wellness scenario, but that would be most focused on people that need immediate care. And while that's a good thing, I mean, that's a great progress that we are able to provide capability for people that need immediate care. Our challenge really is that's not the problem statement. The problem statement doesn't start with a student going to the stage of where they may want to, commit suicide or where they are entering into clinical depression. The problem in the mental health world really starts with the first time somebody gets sad and lonely. And then it goes on to get reinforced over a long period of time. And then somebody gets into a stage of dejection. From dejection is where we see people getting into hopelessness and then perhaps into clinical depression and perhaps into thinking suicide. Suicide and depression are not the initial points of where students need help. By the time they get there, I mean, a lot has already been lost. There is a lot of water under the bridge at that point of time. What we are talking about when we say creating a mentally resilient campus is we are talking about being extremely proactive. We are talking about providing some sort of a capability to people such that they can get help the first time they want to get help, the first time they want to get some support, the first time they identify there is something that is not working according to what they would like, how they would want the world around them to be. Specifically, when we think about universities, when we think about colleges, it becomes a huge problem because this is probably the first time most people have a significant change in their life. When they are in high school or when they are in school, they are usually in a cocoon environment. They have been in that place for, in most cases, for the last 10, 12 years. They have been accustomed to a certain set of people. All of the familiar faces are always there. And then comes this transition from high school to college or universities. For many students, actually for a large number of students, this is the first time they get out into an unfamiliar environment. And not just an unfamiliar environment, into an unfamiliar environment where they now need to fend for themselves, where they have challenges which are thinking about the independence, which are thinking about the personal growth, which are thinking about academic pressure. And as ma'am pointed out, thinking about attachment issues, thinking about, in many cases, living away from their family support systems. This one transition is a hugely important aspect of their life. And if not used or if not handled well, it causes significant damages to students as they move forward and as they go into even further stages of their career. At the end of the day, if we put together a mental health ecosystem which is providing support to these people, we can do a huge amount of support for them. And I am not just talking about for students. I mean, I think exactly similar structure is also required for the teachers, for the faculty, for everyone around. Essentially, at Solh Wellness, here is how we think about mental health. Let me actually ask you guys to consider this question. You all have good days versus bad days. Days when you wake up on the right side of the bed, days when you are extremely productive, when things are just working very well, you get a lot accomplished, and you are happier in life. And then you have a certain day when really you don't wake up right, you are stressed the whole day, you don't get a lot done. That day you also find traffic when you are going. That day you also find, some trouble with the food that you eat, some trouble with, whatever you are doing in all areas of your life. The question that we want you to think about is, if I was to tell you that I can do something, or such that there is some capability that is available, such that, number one, you can reduce the number of bad days that you have. Number two, you can reduce the intensity of those bad days. That's a question I want to ask every student and every teacher. In fact, I want to ask this question of everyone in the world. If I can provide, or if there is possibility to do something that will reduce the number of bad days that you have and the intensity of these bad days, what can I do to your productivity? What can I do to really provide support? What can be done to really look at the entire environment and see the change in how people perform? So productivity, efficiency, growth, how happy people are. So happiness, peace of mind, and the overall cultural ambience of it. And how much would we as a society would be able to get done? That's really what I mean by, and currently, because we are talking about universities, that's really what I mean by creating a mentally resilient campus. I'm absolutely not saying that we shouldn't have capabilities for students that require immediate support, to get support around counseling, to get support around psychiatry or psychology services. All I'm saying, or what I really want you to think about, is how do students even get to that stage? Or what can we do right before that stage, or much before that stage, to be helpful, to be supportive, and to ensure they don't get into such troubled environment? And that's really what we will talk about in the next set of slides. Our current state of mental health. I mean, this is a number that I'm sure everybody on this call knows. There were nearly 13,000 student suicides in 2022, which accounts for 8% of all suicides in India, with 6.8%, a fairly large percentage, coming from students that are related to college degrees or diplomas. And as I said earlier, I don't want you to think about the 13,000 students only. I want you to think about probably the 130,000 students that would have gotten into depression for 13,000 students to look at this, or the 1.3 million students that would have probably not been able to be productive enough, not been able to do reasonably well, and were in a troubled environment. Yeah, they did not get into depression. Yeah, they did not get into thinking suicide. Yeah, they did not get into other troubles. But the scope or what we need to do is much larger than just looking at suicides. Common, I mean, these are really common challenges, and I'm not even scratching the surface when I say this. Um, Thinking about stress, anxiety, depression, thinking about academic pressure, thinking about the fear of failure, thinking about loneliness and isolation, thinking about relationship issues, thinking about financial worries. For us, a lot of this has expanded in scope over the last couple of decades as we have become more digital prone, as we have gotten into a situation where we do not really have very meaningful relationships outside of transactional relationships anywhere, where we really don't have capability for people to use others, capability for people to use the environment around them to be able to get support. And that, I think, is what we need to think about in terms of providing holistic, comprehensive capabilities to students. So, yeah, this is where we want to talk about ensuring there is an access to mental health programs, a comprehensive capability that can be given to students. Let me now give a little bit of background about myself and how I am here and why I am here. I have run a digital marketing agency for 15 years of my life. I started that in 2007. In fact, there is a digital marketing business that I used to run. It is still there, where we have done work across the board with across the brands, across the educational institutes, across social causes and everything. What I always saw happening is this reliance that has grown on the digital environment is starting to cause tremendous issues across the board for everyone, specifically causing significant issues when we think about the youth, specifically causing significant issues when we think about people going through life changes and when they are a little more impressionable. And so this is, the 5 aspects of why we think students need mental wellness support. Number 1, there is a need for just comprehensive well-being, from clinical capability to fostering creativity and resilience. Number 2, as many of you would know, there is a significant problem of substance abuse in universities, colleges, educational institutes. And it is starting to even peep into our schooling system. However, schooling still, there is a lower percentage. In colleges and universities, substance abuse in some cases becomes an extremely large program. In fact, I have been called a few times in universities and colleges to talk about substance abuse, to talk about de-addiction. And one of the reasons why I am in Canada right now is actually working with some experts who have developed certain anti-addiction or de-addiction programs. And we are soon going to also be able to roll them over and bring them on board in our work as a mental wellness platform. Anyway, then the next aspect is ensuring there is enhanced concentration. For many of these students, the problem really starts with the basic. They are occupied with other things in life. They have a lot of social and other aspects to take care of, and they are just not able to concentrate well. They are just not able to focus on what we might consider as important areas of their academic life. They get dissolved in the milieu of all the other emotions, in the milieu of all the other challenges and everything that the student goes through. Next, an extremely important aspect, reduced stress. We need to ensure that our kids, that our students, our professionals are able to reduce their stress levels, enabling them to really focus well, enabling them to really focus on their career, to focus on their future, to focus on their academics, and to really look at being a better individual, a better professional. Last but definitely not the least, looking at life skills, helping students that can gain capabilities like conflict resolution, how to create healthy relationships, how to look at and get value from their environment overall. how our program, how we want to, or what we provide to students is really a wellness program that includes a versatile application, personalized workshops, and holistic support that is available for them. We address key critical issues that we had talked about in the past and really look at creating better mental health and academic success amongst students. That for us is the real focus of what we are trying to achieve, what we are trying to incorporate. For us, we think all of this needs to be available to students free of cost. There should not be, students should not have to, and even universities necessarily should not have to worry about how this system is created. That capability is as fundamental for me as anything, as any academic course, as anything else. One of the things that I always tell students when I lead workshops and also in universities and all, one of the things that I always talk about is, assume there is a student and the student wants to increase their grades in one particular subject by 5%. And they determine they need to spend X number of hours preparing for it or working on that particular subject for them to increase their grades in that subject by 5%. All the research that I have done in mental wellness says if you spend the same X number of hours into the student's mental health, not only will the student be able to increase their grades in that particular subject by 5%, but perhaps the student will be able to increase their grades in all subjects by 5%. Perhaps the student will be able to increase their performance in all areas of their life by 5%. And that's the power of mental wellness that I want to unlock, that I want to bring for each and every student in each and every university, in each and every college, in each and every campus, and each and every virtual room, wherever there is somebody that could benefit from it. Now, we talked about why does a student need mental wellness, but really let us also look at why does a campus need to worry about mental wellness. Number one, promoting acceptance. Fostering a culture of acceptance where a student feels respected is extremely crucial for their growth. Number two, providing diverse perspectives. While in universities, colleges and all, it is not as important as it is in school, but ensuring there is capability of inclusivity, there is capability of diversity that gets created in campuses is an extremely important part of growth, is an extremely important part of learning. And when I said it's not as important in schools, as important in universities as in schools, I was simply referring to in schools, this has become a critical challenge. In universities, it is important, it is needed, but it's still not necessarily a critical challenge. Schools are suffering tremendously with this ability or with this inability to promote diverse perspectives and to be able to create an inclusive environment for them. Number three, ensuring building empathy. Many times we are seeing people that are or students that are extremely competitive, that would go out and do everything, but they don't necessarily mature into good citizens. They don't necessarily mature into great professionals. A good wellness program can help them build empathy for them. Next, individualized learning. So recognizing that there is a need for accommodating varied learning styles and ensuring there is enough support that is provided for the growth of all students. We all know classes include students that are good in one subject and students are not necessarily good in that particular subject. And then students that are just brilliant in that subject. Ensuring we are able to create that kind of a holistic environment using the principles and the discipline of mental wellness is an extremely important part of what a campus should look at. Last but not the least, preparing for the real world. While I talked about how life changes when they get into a college environment, how that's the first stepping stone where they get discomforted in their lives, where they get challenged in their life, where they have to fend for themselves. But it's not just about that. It's about what's going to happen when they get out of here. That's where, in some ways, the real world starts. That's where you have to look at the stress, you have to look at the peer pressure, you have to look at the parental pressure, the ambience pressure, and more importantly, you have to look at your career, your financial viability, your efficiency, your ability to live with the real world. I mean, academics is still an area where we are exploring and learning newer things. Moment we get out of academics is when the real world starts. So ensuring we are able to prepare students and we are able to create a capability for them to handle the real world as they move forward in life is an extremely important, extremely critical part of what the students require. Now, this is an interesting, this particular slide. We talk about this 16-hour concept. This is something that I created a couple of years back. And this came from the perspective that I think, while we keep, so if I ask you guys, have you ever worked on your mental health? And we have a large room, so I can't, and a virtual room, so I can't expect everybody to individually answer. So I will give you statistics of what I have seen so far. So the question is, have you ever worked on your mental health? I have asked this question of at least 30,000 people so far. And here are the statistics of what I get. Nearly 40 of people that I ask this question of. And these people include students and professors and corporates and schools and, professionals everywhere. Have you ever worked on your mental health? 40 to 45% people that I ask this question tell me I have done nothing in my mental health ever. Never needed, kabhi zarurat hi nahi pada. Never had a need to do anything in my mental health. So I didn't. Nearly 45 to 50% people would tell me, I do some work on my mental health. I have, I do yoga, I do meditation, I go to the gym, I dance, I, listen to music, I travel, I go for a run, I write a journal, I read a book, I watch a movie, I kind of take myself away from my current surroundings. I party. Some of them would even say I drink or I have a substance that I use. There are variety of different answers that I get from people. An extremely small percentage of people would say that they have been to a counselor or a therapist. That's the answer that I get. These are